What Volkswagen do pirates like driving? The Arteon. The Arteon was introduced in 2017 to replace the CC. It's basically a sleeker, better looking version of the Passat, right at the top of the Volkswagen range along with the Touareg. Before you move on to Audi, it's Volkswagen's top end offering. I'm sure you'll have been wondering, what does Arteon mean? I certainly did, and basically it's derived from the Latin word for art, which is artem. And the reasoning was that they'd really gone to town with the styling on this car. The way the grille flows into the headlights is quite impressive. It looks pretty cool. It's one of the better looking cars out there from the front. The interior is quite simple but well designed. It's elegant, it flows. You've got this line down the side that connects into the dashboard, goes all the way across and around. This particular model is the entry-level diesel engine, which is 150 brake horsepower. 0 to 60 in around 9 seconds, but it feels quicker than that. If I had to guess, I would have said like 8 seconds. Typical of the low-down diesel torque that you get when you floor it. It shoves you back in your seat a bit, which is nice. I've been getting 55 mpg just driving like I normally do. It's economical. If you are after one of these and you're not particularly in need of some ridiculous performance, then the 150 diesel is quite well suited to this car. This particular car is 2019 R-Line, higher trim level, typical of all these R-Line and S-Line and Jaguars. R-Sport, R-Sport, a little bit more sporty, bigger wheels, it's better well equipped, it's got heated leather seats. This car is manual. I was quite surprised to find that it was a manual because a quick look on Auto Trader and probably only about 10% of Arteons ever sold have been manual. The rest are automatic. It's probably for the best really because this gearbox is somewhat notchy. I think the technical term is notchy AF. This car would well suit an auto anyway. I think it's definitely a Grand Tourer sort of car. It's refined, it can do a ton of miles on one tank of fuel and it's comfortable, so I'd spec it with an auto if it was me. Sorry Matt, who's lent me this car, I do appreciate you. Diesel engine is really quiet. If it weren't for that 5k red line, you wouldn't really know that it was a diesel, apart from the surge of torque that you get. It doesn't sound bad at all. Maybe at very low speeds you can hear that lovely tractory diesel sound, but otherwise it's well kept away from you, the fact that it's a dirty diesel. So although this car's well set up for the motorway and it does excel there, on a flowing A road it's not bad to drive at all. It comes shod with Pirelli P0s, which kind of shows the class that Volkswagen were aiming for. Pirelli P0 tyres are the top end tyres really for your road cars. Oh, that's nice. I've just reversed to park a little bit closer to the curb and the side mirrors just angled down for me so I could see that I wasn't going to curb the rather expensive looking 19-inch alloy wheels. Thanks, car. I think this kind of sums it up here. They really did go to town on that design, like the front end of that compared to the Golf GTI next to it and the Tiguan over there. And it's quite a pleasing car to walk back to. I'd be proud to drive one, I think. Not convinced I like the clock just here, and I don't think Volkswagen liked it either because they got rid of it for the facelift. The thought must have been originally that having a little analogue clock in the dashboard makes a car look fancy and posh and Rolls-Royce-ish. But hey, at least I can see what time it is, which I can also see directly in front of me in the main instrument cluster, which is actually easier to look at. This car, it will hold you in place, not just for hill starts. If you pull up at some lights, you can get off the brake. Even if you're facing downhill, it'll hold the car until you've set off. Which is a bit strange if you're used to letting the car roll, because it won't until you engage the clutch. Practicality wise in here, glove box is kind of alright, average. Little centre console cubby with an armrest on top of it. 2 cup holders with little legs that hold the cups in, which is nice. Good sized door pockets that'll fit a fat bottle. The only button in here that's maybe a little bit confusing if you don't know what it is something that just says rest. Do I press that and then have a little rest? You press it when the engine is off. It essentially uses the residual heat in the engine when you've been driving to keep the cabin warm. I'm guessing rest is an acronym. Now, with this being a competitor to the Sportback and the CLS and so on, it wouldn't be a 4-door coupe worth its salt if it didn't have frameless doors, which I always do enjoy. Especially with the window down, you've just got this like door like that. The Arteon is class leading in rear legroom and just space in general in the back, both the boot and the back seat. So this is perfect opportunity to ask backseat JJ what he thinks. JJ, what do you think of the back of the Arteon? Is it really as good as they say? Yo. Ah, hello. It's absolutely class back here. The most legroom I've seen in any car I've ever been in. It's absolutely amazing. So I'm 6 foot and you're 6 foot, and I can sit behind you and I've got tons of legroom. The only thing is that if I was much taller, the headroom would of course be an issue with this being like a sloping 4-door coupe style. Anyway, I'm happy to sit back here for a while, so cheers dude. Yeah, he seems to be enjoying himself back there. The other interesting thing about the Arteon is the absolutely massive wheelbase, 112 inches, which is huge compared to any of its rivals, and that is how they end up with so much rear space. Although I'm not particularly pleased with the fact that this infotainment screen's down here and not up at the top. It is nice to use. It's totally slick, and it has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay built in, which if you've seen any of my other videos then you'll know I like that. I've had Android Auto sat-nav on here, which is Google Maps. The problem is that you get sat-nav on the pretty nifty virtual dials in front of you, but you can't get the Android Auto sat-nav on there. So as soon as you get Android Auto sat-nav, the map's gone from in front of you, which is a real shame because that's a much better position for it. There was a TV advert doing the rounds when this car was new. A guy driving around in the Arteon in the city. It's just quiet, it's late at night and there's no other cars on the road, and he pulls up to this crossroads, and at the other side of the crossroads there's another Arteon. I was just watching that thinking, well, that's never going to happen. I've been driving around all day in this Arteon and I haven't seen a single other one, and I must have seen like thousands of cars. And what that does mean, it's unusual, and for me it's one of the reasons I don't really always like new cars, because whatever car it is you buy, unless it's 100 grand or something, you're just going to see loads of them everywhere, and that just is not the case with this car. It's not a super expensive car, and yet you don't see them anywhere. Even if this car on paper isn't a match for the A5 or equivalent Mercedes or BMW, I'd probably choose it over any of them anyway, just purely to have something different. A great feature of the Arteon. Just hopefully it doesn't lead to its ultimate demise when VW realised that hardly anyone was buying it. I can also picture it being a pretty good company rep, if those sorts of people even exist anymore, storming up and down the motorway, samples of products and so on. You get a lot of stuff in the back. You can blast up that motorway, get to any place in the UK on one tank of fuel, not stop, and you can destroy your bladder, give yourself back problems. Having said that, the seats are pretty comfortable and adjustable, so they will do their best to try and limit some of that damage. You have an Arteon. I would like to know what made you choose it over any other car. Do you like it? I always like to hear from the owners of these cars. Hit that like button, because, you know, algorithms and stuff. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.